Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we have Michel L'Heureux on the show. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. Mike is the president and CEO at ILF Consultants. ILF Consultants is a global consultancy. Mike looks after the Canadian operation, and we'll talk to him about all the areas that ILF is focused on, specifically digging into some of the energy transition work that they're doing right now, which is a major topic for all of us, and clearly one of the things that's on top of mind for all leaders around the world. But before we get there, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career today.
Sure. So I'm a professional engineer with a degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Saskatchewan. Spent some time doing technical consulting work and let's say the pure engineering in some of the oil and gas projects here in Alberta. Found myself in a startup engineering company fairly early in my career and cut my teeth on leadership and project management there. Did an MBA at Queen's University out of Kingston, Ontario a few years back, and ended up in a leadership role here at ILF, and fairly recently promoted to the CEO chair for ILF Canada. Back, I guess, in June in 2020. So
well, that's excellent, and congratulations. And I would say that, being your kind of I guess a cousin to the South here in the United States, engineering and these types of big projects are first and foremost right now on everybody's minds as bill passes to hopefully build some infrastructure in the US. But, clearly one of the big areas for engineering is some of this renewable energy area. And it sounds like that's an area that you guys are working on at ILF. So tell me more about where you guys are with that.
Yeah, I mean, that falls into our global energy and climate protection portfolio. And, we've been very fortunate, being a global company. A lot of the energy transition work really started quite early in Western Europe, in Germany and Austria, where our headquarters are, where ILF was really founded 50 years ago. And so some of the work that, is being looked at in North America now in the US and Canada, some of that work sort of started off, in Germany, going back 10 years ago, especially on implementation of solar energy, and then certainly some lessons learned from the German experience there that we're trying to take into account here in North America as we build some of these projects out and look at how they fit into our energy mix. But also now on hydrogen, which is obviously a big topic these days, both in the U.S. and Canada. And specifically green hydrogen in Germany, and that's something where we're really looking to leverage the experience from our colleagues there and bring it into the market as it develops here in North America, and as the opportunities start to come up to diversify our energy mix here. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, hydrogen's interesting. I read an article about Airbus and how they're, I guess, now planning to build a hydrogen plane, which I thought was fascinating. It stretched my engineering understandings to the limits, but clearly an interesting idea. And, this work that you're doing, I'd just be curious to kind of see how you see the state of that shift into some of these new renewable energies in Canada and the opportunities that you're seeing in the Canadian market.
Well, I mean, the big challenges that we see to solve obviously are in the distribution and creation of end users, and that's still being for being better understood into where some of these applications are deployable immediately and can be deployed effectively. And so certainly there's lots of talk about hydrogen hubs to address heavy transport and other industrial uses. And here in Alberta, the Edmonton Hydrogen Hub is probably the most far along advanced let's say, hydrogen development, with a lot of large projects being announced from a number of stakeholders. And because Edmonton is a petrochemical and refining hub in Western Canada, there's a lot of natural infrastructure and synergies that are there already that exist. So, we're looking into how we support the growth of that market and the growth of those projects. So there's certainly lots of opportunity there, and a lot of problems to solve that that we're eager to contribute to. So
yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like the market is pushing and the opportunities are presenting themselves. However, over the last couple of years, we've had a bit of a bump with this whole COVID thing, and I'd just be curious to kind of hear how that's impacted the way that you and the ILF team have been able to operate, and maybe some of the opportunities that it's presented.
It's certainly been a dynamic situation. I think one of the big opportunities that it showed us is a little bit of the outside of the box thinking and how we approach project execution and team building and as well as team engagement. So it's it hasn't been all rosy. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
When we're in a highly collaborative environment and looking at how we work together, it's in some cases individuals thrive in the remote office environment, and in other cases it doesn't work so well for others. So we've certainly found, I would say, a mixed bag. But what it's allowed us to do is really look at how we deliver our services and how we optimize, and looking forward into a hybrid environment that that is obviously all the buzz right now in terms of when COVID's over, after 2 years roughly of what we're going to be looking at, 2 years of disruption.
Yeah.
I think everybody's pretty aligned on the new normal, and there's no such thing as a return to normal, because obviously with the great resignation that everybody's talking about, and people reevaluating life priorities and certain disruptions that are happening in the labor force there, how we look to our clients, our projects, our colleagues, to make sure that we're I guess engaging the industry and engaging ourselves as professionals to be effective and deliver in a way that is going to work in this in this new environment that we're going to be entering into. So
has it had any impact, Mike, on the ways that some of these projects that we're talking about, these kind of energy transition or kind of some of the larger engineering projects, have been signed off, or is it slowed things down, or is it speeding them up? I mean, I've seen both happen because of COVID.
It's a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
When we're talking about traditional, oil and gas projects, certainly the energy demand drop that happened, that's just purely a supply and demand, issue that slowed a lot of projects down and stopped some spending. But specific to the way COVID impacted our environment and working, I think there's some organizations were keen to work through the challenges and work through the remote working environment, and other organizations were maybe a little bit more hesitant and really wanted to retain that everybody in the office environment. So it was really a mixed bag, and I wouldn't say that there's any specific profile one way or the other that it fit. For us, we looked at it as a how do we optimize our delivery under these circumstances? So big IT upgrades to enable more data throughput into some of our networks from the remote environment, and then just looking at certain roles and looking forward into what the hybrid environment's going to look like, and saying, okay, here's a number of roles where you just never have to be back in the office again if you don't want to.
Yeah.
There's just no need for it. And digitization of deliverables and, paperless office and paperless workflows, things that, and you see a number of articles, whether it's from Harvard Business Review or Financial Times or whatever, how many companies made a digital transition in 4 days when, previously it was thought to be a 3-year project. And
Yeah.
next thing you know,
Well,
it's
I have said this in the past. I do think that COVID acted as the final kind of nail in the coffin of that one board member that always voted no to any digital change, and I've been in many of those kind of board discussions where there's one individual that seems to always find a reason to stop progress. And I think COVID basically was a moment where everyone else just said, all right, we're going to go forward now. So, and so that is an exciting moment. And so, I mean, maybe putting on your Nostradamus hat and looking forward now for the future of what you guys are going to be focusing on. What do you think the next 18 months looks like for ILF and the types of things that you guys are going to be tackling?
Well, here in Western Canada, we have two very discrete, project delivery teams. We have our traditional, energy, oil and gas team that is going to be busy.
Yep.
With energy prices forecast to be strong in the next 3, 4, 5 years, depending on who you ask and whose crystal ball you're looking at. But clearly, in the short term, we're seeing that's going to be the case. And then on the energy transition projects, whether it's hydrogen, carbon capture and storage, other forms of green energy, and also ESG projects, environmental social governance related projects, with not only greenhouse gas reduction, methane reduction, and other related projects, and looking at supply chains and how those are all impacted. That's where there's certainly going to be a lot of activity, and that has an infinite runway at this point. Those projects are going to continue to be a growing part of the portfolio of a number of service providers across multiple sectors, and that's not just in oil and gas and industrial. That's going to whether it's healthcare, whether it's tech, it doesn't matter.
It's a really interesting one because, we talk about this, the push into these new energies, but, we're going to be living in this transformative moment for a while. And, I think traditional energy needs are going to continue for a while for sure. Anybody that tries to fill up a tank of gas right now feels it, right? The prices are high. And so there's definitely this transitionary period we're going to be in, and that's exciting, but it's also going to be quite complex. And so, Mike, I have a feeling a lot of work is going to be coming your way.
Well, we're certainly ready for it, and what we see is definitely not a lot of alignment on how long this transition is going to take. There's some pretty aggressive targets, being set on, obviously with COP26 recently.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, momentum to steer things in a direction, and it's the right direction. And certainly the timeline is what, everybody has to get their head wrapped around. This is a multi-generational transition.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily, get solved in anybody's 4-year mandate.
No.
And it's going to be interesting to see how it cycles, because it's going to be very dynamic.
Yeah. We've been speaking with Michel L'Heureux. Mike is the president and CEO at ILF Consultants in Canada. And we've been talking about all of the types of projects that they're working on. A lot of the areas really focused around those energy transition issues, some of the traditional energy needs that are certainly not abating in any way. We need to kind of continue those things growing and building, but also the switch and the development of new areas, specifically hydrogen. I mean, what an interesting concept. As I said, that plane idea Sounds fascinating. And I've worked with a couple of automotive companies on how they want to market their hydrogen cars of the future. So I don't know how Elon's going to deal with that. We'll see. We'll see how he deals with the hydrogen challenge. But Mike, if anyone wanted to speak with you about what you guys are doing and perhaps how you guys could help them, where can they find you?
I think probably the easiest way would be through my LinkedIn page, through my LinkedIn profile. Just direct message me. I respond in person, or if you go into the ILF Global, ilf.com, and then go to the country page, and you'll see a specific drop down there to get the ILF Canada page. And there's a general inbox that you can send queries to. It's in inquiries.canada@ilf.com, and that inbox will gets distributed to our executive team here,
Excellent.
regardless of what the query is. So happy to hear from people.
Great. Well, listen, thanks so much for being on the show today, Mike, and look forward to talking to you again. Cheers.
Thanks.